Welcome to Queen Elle TV. This is Elle. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, as the title states, this is a quick chit chat with a little story time and a lesson in social communication. So, um, today is Friday, April 1st, 2022. So, happy April Fool's Day if you celebrate that or recognize it. I don't really celebrate that. I'm not a prankster. Don't like pranks to be played on me. Um, I've always been a bit too serious for that, so not having it. But okay, so my little story time, really quick. So as you see, I'm in my van as usual. I am in an area where the parking is limited, and I have somewhat of shared parking space behind my house. So the person that would be considered my closest neighbor, we would share some parking area, the area where we park rather. So there was someone who was living there, and they moved out. Let's see, within the past few months, they moved out. I knew based on seeing some maintenance workers working on that apartment, little duplex, that someone else would probably be moving in soon. But and I was a little curious, wondering who it would be, because we typically like keep to ourselves, and the person who was in that little duplex near my home, they kept to themselves. So I was thinking, like, I really hope that whoever moves into this space, they do the same, and it's not, some riffraff or just somebody who's super nosy or anything like that, since we don't live too close to each other. No closer than a typical next door neighbor, but our parking area is right next to each other. So I was just thinking, like, to be honest, I don't even like passing. It's one thing to see strangers out in public, but in your home space, I'm a very private person in my personal life. So I don't really like crossing paths with somebody who's too close to me. Okay. Okay, I'm about to come. Go on. Mom life. So the quick story time is this. So I was upstairs in my room a little earlier. I was getting ready to start getting dressed to go for a Target pickup run, and my little one was already dressed, and he was downstairs with his brothers. So all of a sudden, my oldest son comes, and my middle one says, there's somebody ringing the doorbell. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not expecting anyone. So when I'm not expecting anyone, we ignore anyone coming to our home, because if we're not expecting anyone, if there's no package coming or anything, then whoever it is can either leave a note or make a phone call, because there's no one that should be coming right now. So I said, ignore it, don't worry about it. Next thing I know, I could hear someone banging at my front door. I'm like, who is banging, and what's the need to bang for? So I jump up at that point. I just had my robe on, but I jump up because I'm thinking, okay, I need to see who this is banging on my front door. So I go downstairs, and we actually don't even use our front door to come and go. We use our back door because that's where parking is. So that's another thing. It was just like, who is banging on my front door? So I come down, and by the time I come down and look, there's no one out front. My oldest son says, yeah, I heard somebody saying open the door, and I'm thinking, who has the nerve to say open the door and banging on the door? So I start going towards the back, and my son, he's so protective. He was like, don't go out there. And I said, no, I'm going out there to see who this is. So I step out. I looked outside, didn't see anyone. I step outside. I see someone looking they're parked in a large SUV looking right behind my minivan, looking at it, and they're on their phone. And I could tell it was a young guy, and he said, "Is this your van?" And I said, "Yes, it is. That's my van." And he was like, "Well," he was saying that basically this was, he's just moved in and this was his parking spot, and he was on the phone with his landlord, and his landlord said that's his spot. And he said, and they told me that, only reason you all were parking in this spot was because nobody was living here, but now I'm living here and this is my spot. Now, everyone doesn't communicate the same way. Everyone does not have the mental capacity to communicate in an appropriate manner. I'm aware of that. And I'm not knocking anyone because, you communicate the way that you know to communicate. I get it. However, when you are just a part of interpersonal communications, when you're communicating with someone else, especially a stranger, there's just a certain level of decorum that I feel you should have. And yes, I will preface this by saying I already am fully aware that I am like the etiquette queen in my personal life. I'm big on, what's appropriate when dealing with other people. So, with that being said, this kid, he was like, by kid, I would say, excuse me, he seemed like he might be 25 or younger. So he's like, excuse me, he's like all like amped. And my big takeaway from this, let me finish the story. So when he said all that he said, I said, okay. I said, well, actually, I mentioned how long we've been living here. And I said, I've always parked in that spot. There was somebody living there until recently, and I always parked in the same spot. And he used a different spot. And he was like, oh, well, I'm just telling you what they told me. They said that that's my spot. I said, okay. And so then that was it. And I turned and walked back into my house, called my partner, told him what happened. And he was like, well, don't leave yet. I'm coming. He came, talked to the guy. We hashed it all out. It's really no big deal. Problem solved. The lesson here, which will probably, I don't want to assume that it will be lost on this guy, but possibly is, one, it doesn't take all of that aggression to get your point across and to solve a problem or any type of issue or potential conflict. You can tell when someone is either used to having to be super assertive and aggressive to get things accomplished, or if they were taught that that's the way to get things done. Because it just doesn't take all that. It's completely unnecessary. What I thought since it happened, this was just earlier today, I was thinking, dude, that's what you were banging on my front door for? Thankfully it was during the day and not at night, because seriously, that's what I was really thinking was, that is why you're banging on my door? It's really not that serious. But, you just never know what someone else's perspective is and where they're coming from. And maybe for him, I viewed the way that he was talking to me being at like a 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, when I was like at a 2 or a 1. And maybe that's just how he is. Maybe for him that was a 2. I don't know him, so I can't really speak to that. I just thought that it was, I'm losing my light. I just thought that it was just really extra, really unnecessary. I like to use different situations that happen as a lesson, like a learning opportunity for my own children, because they're my responsibility, not someone else outside of my home. They're my first responsibility, I'll say. So I spoke to my boys and just explained what happened. And told them, I taught them about reading the room and how you gauge when you're communicating with someone. If someone else is already at 10, then maybe you do need to, match their energy depending on the situation to assert yourself, um, with regard to whatever you're being faced with. But I've learned throughout my life that most situations don't warrant that. So, coming basically at me like, yeah, and this and that. I mean, especially when I was so low key and calm, it just really was unnecessary. It just didn't take all of that. And his takeaway may be, yeah, well, that's how you got to be. And I see, I got something accomplished by that, when it would have gotten accomplished the exact same way if he would have came at like a level 2 or 3 to just see how my energy was, to decide if you need to amp it up or not. I mean, it just was unnecessary. So that's my quick little story time. So just, you know, kind of check yourself instead of starting out with your energy already up there. Maybe just see how the other person is and then act accordingly. But to start out all like amped and everything and like ready to go when that's not even necessary, it's just, I don't know, it just goes to show, how different people are in the world. So that is my story time for today, is just, check yourself and just learn how to read the room before you communicate with someone, because you may find that like you're getting yourself worked up for nothing. So that's it for me today. I will check back in with you soon. As you will see in my description box, I do have a line of products. My business is Queen Elle LLC. I am on Amazon. I have some moon cycle planners that are just some open-ended planners that you can use throughout a 12-month period. As we have the moon cycles, April 1st is a new moon. So you have the new moon, first quarter, last quarter, and then the full moon. So that happens every 28 days. So definitely check out my moon cycle planner for yourself and support if you feel inclined. Also, I'm Queen Elle LLC on Etsy, and I have all handmade products. I have handmade soy candles, which are all natural, and I use all natural ingredients for those. Also, I have jewelry. I have handmade crystal jewelry that I have bracelets and rings and necklaces, pendants. Also, I have some screen print t-shirts. I have a full line of t-shirts, so definitely check that out as well. And that's it for today. So thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy this great spring weather, depending on where you are. And I will be in touch. Ashe. Peace.